changing every dimension of the economy, disrupting the labor markets everywhere, and changing structures of power, influence, money in very dramatic ways. And we have the highest concentration of wealth in human history in a few hands. 10 techies in the United States have $2.6 trillion of wealth. Elon Musk by himself, $700 billion of net worth. This is weird, disruptive, completely unprecedented. We have this one guy who does the space shots for the Pentagon, determines which armies in the field have real-time internet, has a very weird AI on site with doing all sorts of social disruption. And he's a very strange guy personally. So if you add it all up, this is really extremely disruptive by itself. And I think there's a fourth aspect, which is our governments in most places, with the exception of China, from my perception, our governments are not able to govern right now. The United States probably is the most incapacitated government of any major government. We have no systems. So one of the things, as we discuss the Iran war, for example, there's no process. Normally, you would have said, well, the CIA is doing an operation, or this is a war that Congress has called for. You understand what this is, but it actually rolls out on True Social. We've got a nut as president, just to be blunt about it. I like to be blunt because there are very few opportunities for adult conversation, which we need. We just need a real understanding. So we have a president who is out of control, really, but we don't really understand how the US government works right now. I'm a close observer of the US government for 50 years, but I'm not on the inside. Thanks God. But so I can't tell you actually how decisions are being made right now. I could tell you 5 years ago about how decisions are being made, but I actually do not understand whether it's Trump making decisions or Radcliffe making decisions or Hegseth making decisions. None of these people seems completely remotely capable of ordering mass armadas, launching wars, fighting wars, doing diplomacy. And everyone I know that interacts with Trump says that he has an attention span of a few seconds, basically, and is a complete ignoramus. And this is in the middle of a war that we're in. So I don't understand who actually is doing what and how, but I would put this under the category that our governments are not working well, period. The US is an extreme case, which is not the best news, because it would be better if a small country were the extreme case, but the US is the extreme case right now. Nobody knows how to deal with the United States because no one knows what's really going on, what the relations are. It's all the more unnerving because we have to fake everything as if we're in a normal situation. So no matter how weird it gets, everyone says, oh yes, this is very interesting. We're going to continue our diplomacy, even though it's a madhouse. And there's no process at all right now. And by the way, part of the degeneration of politics is that every day there's an upheaval, but it's followed by the next upheaval, so you don't even remember the last upheaval. You might remember that last year we had trade wars based on reciprocal tariffs. Oh, and then they were declared illegal. And then what? Well, that's last week. This week is the Iran war. Next week is the overthrow of Cuba. Who knows? So this is a really terribly destabilizing process. And maybe because it's a madhouse, nobody reacts in ways that I regard as sensible or meaningful, with the exception of China. China's, in my view, the most stable governance process of a major country in the world by far. You know when the 2 sessions will come. You know that the 15th plan will be issued on a particular day. You know that it will be carried out. It's seems to be a very stable order right now. And almost the opposite is true in the United States. And Europe does not function, I must say, with our esteemed European ambassadors here. The Commission seems to be flailing about. There's no consensus whatsoever within Europe on anything anymore. It's a cacophony. That may be okay, but it's also almost a rupture between the government processes and the public, because approval ratings are near zero for most of the major governments as well. And we have a governance crisis that is quite pervasive. For any small or medium-sized country, no matter how brilliantly it's governed, this is a chaos. What do you do? How do you react? What are you supposed to do the next day? Who do you talk to? Our international institutions are paralyzed because of this. The UN can't turn on the lights. The budget doesn't function. Nobody pays. Again, the US has instigated many of these crises individually, but nobody really has replaced the US in making sure that these international institutions continue to function. So that's not really a diagnosis, it's mainly a description of a very chaotic environment. If I could try just for 1 minute to give a little bit of a diagnosis and a prescription. The breakdown of US governance, the loss of US power, and the mindset reaction in the US is the main driver of chaos in the world right now. And it's going to take over Latin America as it wants to. It's going to take over the Gulf and West Asia as it wants to. It's going to have its showdown with China as it wants to. It's going to keep Europe in thrall as it wants to. And none of these things is going to happen this way. But that's what the US is trying to do. So none of it adds up to anything meaningful except danger and a spread of war. I don't even know whether they can de-escalate anymore because they're so crazy. The unpredictability of events. This is not some planned craziness. This is not the madman theory. This is just the madman and the tantrum that's coming with it. So I put all of this as a great danger. What's the answer? The answer would be for the rest of the world to act like grown-ups and insist that we get back to a sensible system. That's not happening right now. Europe, with the exception of President Sachs, does not speak like adults anywhere. Europe only says things to appease Mr. Trump or to try to keep him quiet, or out of Russophobia, which is equally confused and misguided, so a kind of panic as well in Europe that to my mind makes no sense. So we don't have reactions in Europe. I'll give you one quick example. I don't want to hog the mic, but I was in the strangest, it wasn't the strangest because the next week was even stranger, but I was in a very strange UN Security Council session about 3 weeks ago now when Israel and the United States attacked Iran the first day, and an emergency session was called. I was asked to testify by several delegations. The British blocked me from testifying, and the Americans blocked me from testifying. So that was, for me, the start of a normal day, which is, let's not have real discussion anywhere. Let's make sure that the narrative is controlled, because the British were the chair of the Security Council that day. But then the entire session, it started with the Bahrainis, who said, we're here because of an unprovoked attack by Iran. Didn't mention that Iran had been attacked by Israel and the United States, only that Iran had attacked the Fifth Fleet in response. This is the start of surrealism, that you have a session the day that the US and Israel attack Iran, and the first statement out of the box is an unprovoked war by Iran. I thought, well, that's a little crazy, but I understand Bahrain is a wholly owned subsidiary of the United States, so let's go on. Then came the French. Same thing. Didn't mention that Iran had been attacked. Then came the Latvian. Didn't mention that Iran had been attacked. This went around the room for the first 8 or so people. Then I realized every one of them has American military bases on their soil, so we couldn't have an honest discussion. Not one of them could say, for example, I thought the Bahraini might have said, well, we've been attacked unprovoked because we didn't do anything, but that attack on Iran was the reason that this started. But that sentence that would tell you you're in a real world, not a surreal world, was not uttered by anybody. So all in all, it was completely disheartening. Kaya Kallas tweeted, Iran is an evil country that must be brought to bear, the day that they're attacked by the US and Israel. Again, nobody dared speak the truth at all about this unbelievable war of aggression without any cause that day, the day before the next round of negotiations was taking place, after the Omani mediator had said publicly that Iran had made major concessions to the American position. Nobody speaks the truth right now. So this is a very deep governance crisis on top of everything else. My prescription is that we behave like grown-ups again and talk about true things. And it means that people say, Mr. Trump, that's not right. Practice that sentence, please. Mr. Trump, you can't do that. That's a danger to the whole world. I'd like all the heads of state to practice that sentence. It might save the world. To really be able to speak directly so that we don't reach a cataclysm, which is absolutely possible right now. By the way, Netanyahu is even more of he's a real psychopath, without question. And they're completely out of control. And they have one psychopath backing the other one. So it's very important that we speak right now, logically, in a reality, in a direct way, to try to tamp things down before they get completely out of control. And if we were all behaving with rationality and responsibility, we would find out, God, the world's complicated for all the deep reasons. In other words, there's nothing simple about the challenges, but we'll never solve the challenges through mad truth social quotes of bigly wins and exclamation points and we'll kill them all and bombing by Israel of South Pars and destruction of Qatar as if it's all a video game, and all normalized by the lack of public discussion in a serious way about any issue. So I don't mean to be presumptuous, and I don't really mean to be obnoxious, but for the ambassadors, please, the only thing, if you want to say anything, what did Mr. Sachs say? It's that government should talk truthfully about the situation so that we have a chance to actually address what is the most serious crisis of global governance since World War II.